Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Jim. This is an ongoing public hearing in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals. There is at least 2 more hearings scheduled, July and August. Hopefully, it's going to wrap up in August. A decision has not been made either way. When that decision is made, all parties have, the right to appeal to Superior Court, whether it's the applicant or the neighbors or anything. And I don't think any public comment should be made in this forum. It should be done in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals because it's an ongoing case.
In addition to that, we don't have any, the board has no jurisdiction in this particular
No,
issue.
the Board of
It is with-
Selectmen does not. It's strictly in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals. And because it's a public hearing that's going on, all comments should be in front of the Board of Appeals because they're taking the information in for their files. So I just wanted to give you that.
Mr. Delaney.
Jim, what are the 2 meeting dates, if you know?
I don't have, I believe it's the 3rd Thursday in July and the 3rd Thursday in August, but I can get that for you.
22nd of July and 19th of August.
I believe that's.
Just for a matter of history, okay, this letter was sent out on, according to the date here, this cover letter, the cease and desist was July 22nd, 2009.
2009.
So, just so I understand the process, you send this out, and then what brings it to the Board of Appeals?
They, they have 30 days at that point, and then I start, I got to give them a warning and some fines and stuff.
Yeah.
And once they apply to the zoning board, I can't find them anymore. Then they're in front of the zoning board for their home occupation, so.
Okay.
Until that's over, either way, everything's stopped.
Okay, so this thing has been, the cease and desist has basically been in limbo as a result of them applying for a permit at the ZBA. Right, any questions for building inspector?
No, other than this has been an ongoing situation for
Many years.
generation or more in this neighborhood, and it's been a real pain in the neck to the neighbors down there for a number of years, and there's been efforts in the past to try and rein it in, and finally, last year, a cease and desist was ordered by the building inspector, which the homeowner here has appealed to the Board of Appeals and has since applied for a special permit, correct?
Yeah, and applied for a
The home
occupation.
occupation.
Contracting business.
They run a contracting business, so now it's running its natural course through the Board of Appeals process, which the board has been pretty much aware of all the way along. And, as the building inspector has pointed out, any comments would be most appropriately made there rather than here. We have no jurisdiction as a board in relation to the decisions of the Board of Appeals, and once they do render a decision, the appeal process is clearly spelled out in that either the applicant or the neighbors can question the final decision. In relation to the Board of Appeals and their way of handling it, all I can say is over the past 15 years or more, we have not been engaged in much litigation. So the Board of Appeals generally has done a very good job on behalf of the community in taking care of situations and getting neighbors to agree to certain things and come to terms with each other and avoiding litigation. That was not necessarily the case years ago, where we had a Board of Appeals which we seemed to end up in court quite a bit. So for the past 15 years or so or more, they've done a very good job of upholding the bylaws, being the pressure relief valve that they're designed to be, and able to render some decisions which has been acceptable to the neighbors and avoided litigation. So I don't think it would be appropriate for us to be sticking our nose into anything at this point. We can all have an opinion, and the place to express that would be at the Board of Appeals.
Well, at the same time, it's been my policy as chair that when people had a legitimate request to come before us and make a statement, that I haven't, stepped in the way of that happening. Given that this is a ZBA issue, I just think we should hear what Mr. Fitzmaurice has to say, and hopefully he understands that there's not much action that we can take at this point.
Jeff has a,
Jeff?
Yes, I have a question. As a matter of learning the process, the first hearing notice was on December 2009, when they were asking for a home occupation permit. What's the time frame? Is there an end to the process that it's, is there a decision date, once the clock is started, is there a decision date that something has to be done?
There is no clock until they close the public hearing, then the clock starts. They could continue a public hearing for years, month to month, as they negotiate it, as they go, more information comes in, depending on how big the case is. But there is no time limit that they have to close the public hearing. Once they close the public hearing, then the clock starts, they have to make a decision.
What was the date of the first public hearing? This is the date the letter went out.
No,
December.
next one, right here.
December
December-
December 10th.
It's the next
December
page.
10th? Okay, I'm sorry. Yep, okay.
And as Steve said, this has been going on for years. So, 4 previous building inspectors have been dealing with this. So.
Right, there are other locations in town that have
Yes.
similar problems. Okay,
All right.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim.
Mr. Fitzmaurice, you have the floor.
Around it, still the oldest guy around, everywhere I go, this is the oldest guy. But,
You prefer to sit?
I'm here not to complain to you, because some of you have already helped our neighbors. I realize that. You've got a lot of things on your mind, budget and all that, but I would like to ask you to do the citizens in our area a favor. To find out from the Board of Appeals what they are doing. How can they give out a permit to a contractor in a residential zone and tell you about it, they're gonna do this in August? They've already made up their mind. When these people have been breaking laws on putting contracting equipment, and it's a real mess. I mean, it's a blight to the area. And yes, in the last 6 months, they have cleaned up, but now they're coming back with all their junk. And where their equipment was going, where Magliozzi's farm is, well, he has a building right next door that he rents. Well, after Mass, somebody told me, who lives right across the street, that they've been lugging their junk to Magliozzi's house that he rents. I don't think he even knows it. Putting it in back, and now I think they're bringing it back, because right now, there's a snowplow there. There's all kinds of equipment. So I'm trying to find out, that they're not gonna leave. I mean, that's for sure. These people don't do anything right. No need of going into all this stuff, because you all have correspondence that you're on the list of an anonymous letter and all that stuff, so you all have that correspondence. And how can a Board of Appeals make a decision contrary to specific law? The decision should have been made on the first meeting, because that's how exact these laws are. There's no doubt about it. It says it right there. Nobody has done anything. It's true, the Board of Appeals says, well, they give permits for home businesses. Mr. Yell runs his business from his house, but you wouldn't even know it. Everything is done on the telephone or the computer, but these people do it blatantly. There's kids now playing around there. It's a danger to these kids. They go to school in the morning when school is up. There's no sidewalks. You go out on the street in the morning to their job sites. At the last meeting, the Board of Appeals said they were issuing a home permit with restrictions. these restrictions only apply to equipment. Although a direct question was asked many times if the question of operating in a residential zone by a construction company is legal. The question was always avoided. I even went to town manager last year. I asked you, the answer I got wasn't too good. But we don't like to bother with these boards, you know. So it's a tough situation, very, very bad. Do you know of any construction company in North Reading that's doing business in a residential zone and has a permit? You know any construction company that has a permit to do business in a residential zone? But these guys are doing it without a permit for years, and now they're gonna give them a permit. That's contrary really to laws, regulations, or anything. The law which pinpoints restrictions on construction companies clearly states that no construction company can operate out of a residential zone. A construction company that has its business address in his home is in a residential zone, right? I mean, how can you say he's not in a residential zone? What regulation gives the right to the Board of Appeals to interpret the law in its own way when the law is so specific? About a year ago, I was in touch with the Attorney General, knowing how this board operates. So I was before him before. It cost me $13,000 to get something that's black and white. I had to get a lawyer. After long delays. So I've been in touch with the Attorney General on this matter for about a year because of the way the Board of Appeals operate. I knew it was going to be a long, long, long process. The Attorney General, the person I dealt with in Worcester, which handles these things, she told me that she could do nothing about it until they make a decision. If you want the person I talked to, the telephone number, probably some of you have it. And when the Board of Appeals makes the decisions, they're going to look into it. They're not going to send an army up here, but they're going to look into it, which means they have all the documents you have, for all the anonymous letters, and they know what's going on, and they cannot do anything until the Board of Appeals makes their decision. Now, when the Board of Appeals makes their decisions, they are going to look into it. And the only thing that's going to happen, we're going to have to go to court. And this is going to embarrass the town because the Board of Appeals is making the wrong decision. I have asked them to investigate this matter to see if there's a criminal intent to flout the law by the Board of Appeals and the construction company. Further, if there is criminal negligence or conspiracy by both parties and by not doing their job and impeding the flow of the law and justice, if they get into it, I won't have anything to do with it because they are the ones, the Attorney General's office, are the ones that are going to be asking the questions. They're going to run the whole thing. So I plead with you, if you don't want the town to be embarrassed because because that board doesn't do their job, I think they do not do their job. That'll be in the newspapers, not transcript, the Herald and the Globe. If you want this kind of embarrassment, okay, but I don't think it should go that far. I just ask you people to talk to this board, officially or unofficially, and see what they are doing. It doesn't make sense. The laws are cut and dry. This should have been taken care of at the first meeting, but it wasn't.